Oh, goodness gracious.
I'm sorry, y'all. There's no one here right now, but it'll come back on the replay. There we go. Good morning. Today is June 14th, 2024. Oh my goodness. And it is Friday. I'm trying, y'all. I'm trying. I'm struggling. But I'm trying. Good morning. Okay. I'm a little disorganized. Good morning, Miss Trudy. Well, that's because I've been exercising. If I look bright and sunny, and I haven't been exercising as in, you know, what I've been doing is, of course, I was tending to the animals, and then I went over to the local cemetery where I did some weeding for about an hour, maybe a little bit more than that. So, and then I came home and washed my face, got all the grass off from my head. And so now here we are. I did watch Pilgrim. I caught the last several minutes of it. I didn't comment though, but just so you know, I was there. And so now we're here, and we're going to read Joshua chapter 22. Joshua will finish up on Sunday, Lord willing. And so we're just tying up loose ends here. Yes, he was quick for himself. I had a thought, but then it left me. It just went right out. And I'm not going to poke myself with the straw. All right, so I'm hoping you're feeling better, Miss Trudy. I don't know if I'm going to get to headlines or not. I'm having technical difficulties. Forgive me if I drop this. Things are placed very precariously here. All right. Okay, good. I'm glad you're feeling better. So let's read Joshua 22. Today I'm doing the New Living Translation. Then Joshua called together the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. He told them, "You have done as Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and you have obeyed every order I have given you. During all this time, you have not deserted the other tribes. You have been careful to obey the commands of the Lord your God right up to the present day. And now the Lord your God has given the other tribes rest, as he promised them. So go back home to the land that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you as your possession on the east side of the Jordan River. But be very careful to obey all the commands and the instructions that Moses gave to you. Love the Lord your God. Walk in all his ways, obey his commands, hold firmly to him, and serve him with all your heart and all your soul." So Joshua blessed them and sent them away, and they went home. Moses had given the land of Bashan, east of the Jordan River, to the half-tribe of Manasseh. The other half of the tribe was given land west of the Jordan. As Joshua sent them away and blessed them, he said to them, "Go back to your homes with the great wealth you have taken from your enemies, the vast herds of livestock, the silver, gold, bronze, and iron, and the large supply of clothing. Share the plunder with your relatives." So the men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh left the rest of Israel at Shiloh in the land of Canaan. They started the journey back to their own land of Gilead, the territory that belonged to them according to the Lord's command through Moses. Good morning, Tracy. But while they were still in Canaan, and when they came to a place called Gililoth, near the Jordan River, the men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh stopped to build a large and imposing altar. The rest of Israel heard that the people of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh had built an altar at the Gililoth, at the edge of the land of Canaan, on the west side of the Jordan River. So the whole community of Israel gathered at Shiloh and prepared to go to war against them. First, however, they sent a delegation led by Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, to talk with the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. In this delegation were 10 leaders of Israel, one from each of the 10 tribes, and each the head of his family within the clans of Israel. When they arrived in the land of Gilead, they said to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, "The whole community of the Lord demands to know why you are betraying the God of Israel. How could you turn away from the Lord and build an altar for yourselves in rebellion against him? Was our sin at Peor not enough? To this day we are not fully cleansed of it, even after the plague that struck the entire community of the Lord. And yet today you are turning away from following the Lord. If you rebel against the Lord today, he will be angry with all of us tomorrow. If you need the altar because the land you possess is defiled, then join us in the Lord's land, where the tabernacle of the Lord is situated, and share our land with us. But do not rebel against the Lord or against us by building an altar other than the one true altar of the Lord our God. Didn't divine anger fall on the entire community of Israel when Achan, a member of the clan of Zerah, sinned by stealing the things set apart for the Lord? He was not the only one who died because of his sin." I'm sure you remember that. Then the people of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh answered the heads of the clans of Israel, "The Lord, the Mighty One, is God. The Lord, the Mighty One, is God. He knows the truth, and may Israel know it too. We have not built the altar in treacherous rebellion against the Lord. If we have done so, do not spare our lives this day. If we have built an altar for ourselves to turn away from the Lord, or to offer burnt offerings or grain offerings or peace offerings, may the Lord himself punish us. The truth is, we have built this altar because we fear that in the future your descendants will say to ours, 'What right do you have to worship the Lord, the God of Israel?' The Lord has placed the Jordan River as a barrier between our people and you people of Reuben and Gad. You have no claim to the Lord, so your descendants may prevent our descendants from worshiping the Lord." So you see what they were afraid that down the road, since they were disconnected from everybody else because the Jordan River separated them, they were afraid that down the road their descendants would argue and leave the other 2.5 tribes out. So, verse 26. So we decided to build the altar not for burnt offerings or sacrifices, but as a memorial. It will remind our descendants and your descendants that we too have the right to worship the Lord at his sanctuary with our burnt offerings, sacrifices, and peace offerings. Then your descendants will not be able to say to ours, 'You have no claim to the Lord.' If they say this, our descendants can reply, Look at this copy of the Lord's altar that our ancestors made. It is not for burnt offerings or sacrifices. It is a reminder of the relationship both of us have with the Lord. Far be it from us to rebel against the Lord or turn away from him by building our own altar for burnt offerings, grain offerings, or sacrifices. Only the altar of the Lord our God that stands in front of the tabernacle may be used for that purpose. When Phinehas the priest and the leaders of the community, the heads of the clans of Israel, heard this from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, they were satisfied. Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, replied to them, "Today we know the Lord is among us, because you have not committed this treachery against the Lord as we thought. Instead, you have rescued Israel from being destroyed by the hand of the Lord." Then Phinehas, son of Eleazar the priest, and the other leaders left the tribes of Reuben and Gad in Gilead and returned to the land of Canaan to tell the Israelites what had happened. And all the Israelites were satisfied and praised God and spoke no more of war against Reuben and Gad. The people of Reuben and Gad named the altar Witness, for they said, "It is a witness between us and them that the Lord is our God too." So there we have it. Joshua 22. So it was a good thing that they sent that delegation to check and see what was happening before they just jumped to conclusions and went fighting their brothers or their cousins. All right, now forgive me if this falls. I've got to do something. Almost. I've got to get a better setup here. I need a new phone. This one is not very quickly, and in fact it stopped charging in the middle of the night, and my alarm is on my phone. But the Lord woke me up. He woke me up 15 minutes before I normally wake up, so I'm thankful for that, because my phone was completely dead, and it's still only at like, I don't know, 48%. It's been on the charger since 5:45 this morning, so I need to get a new phone. Okay, so let's take a look at some headlines, because some of these things are really concerning and need to be prayed about. Terrorists used strange punishments, physical and mental torture, to torment hostage, says father. The physical torture included receiving strange punishments for everything they did. I don't know what that means. Mikhail said, referring to Andrei and the two other men he was held with. I'm assuming these are the hostages, some of the hostages that were released from Hamas. No matter what, it was impossible for the captives to behave correctly and be fine. Once, he reported, they covered him with 6 blankets in the heat for a long time as a punishment for not asking for permission to leave the bathroom, and they did not allow him to move. Man, can you imagine? We need to keep praying for those people that are remaining, and for their families, and even those who have been released or rescued, because they have been traumatized. I mean, to say the very least. We often just forget, here in America, we often forget the terrible things that so many people across the world are living with and living through. I'm not going to share all of these. Anti-Semitism harassment in America is growing. We know about what's happened in the subways of New York here in the last few days, where these masked people were demanding that the Jews identify themselves. Here's one in Florida, at a Florida pharmacy. A man was hurling anti-Semitic insults at a Jewish man after noticing he was wearing a kippah. There have been severe floods and landslides in Vietnam, northern Vietnam, claiming 3 lives. High risk of excessive rainfall, still going on in Florida. High risk of excessive rainfall issued for the I-75 corridor in Florida. This is parts of South Florida, including the Miami metro region. Severe storms with large hail, strong winds, and tornadoes target Chicago and Kansas City. These severe storms are expected across the Central Plains to the Central Great Lakes on June 13th, which was yesterday. I have no idea if that actually happened. Let me know if you have seen that. Widespread floods continue in South Florida. Meanwhile, in China, crops are failing due to heat wave and extreme drought. Hungary was fined 200 million euro for not allowing migrant invasion. The Prime Minister claims it is financial blackmail. I mean, you try to protect your own country and your own people. There's some of these I want to go in and read beyond just the headlines. I'm not going to do that here, but I'm just saying I won't give the headline because I want to read it first. We know that Saudi Arabia has declined to renew the petrodollar contract, which enables them to be able to sell their oil and other things using multiple currencies, whether it be the Chinese RMB, euros, yen, yuan, instead of exclusively in US dollars. So we will be seeing the effects of that, you know. Scientists warn that a 9.0 earthquake along the Cascadia subduction zone could send a 100-foot tall tsunami slamming into the west coast. We talked about this a few days ago. That would just set off a chain of events. You know it would. If that goes off, San Andreas will likely, that fault that runs from the west coast to the New Madrid would probably go off. The New Madrid will go off. Maybe the Yellowstone volcano. I mean, it could just be beyond catastrophic. And we know something like that will be happening. We know something like that will happen someday soon. Oh, that's good, Miss Trudy. Andre said he always had faith he'd return to Israel. Is Kippa the same as Yarmulke? Spelling is off, I know. I think so. I don't know. If Pilgrim were on here, he would be able to answer that probably. I think it's the same thing. Those little round things they wear on their head. I think so. But I really don't know. Uh-oh. This culling of 500,000 chickens is for a manufactured bird flu crisis. We know that a similar thing has been happening here in America. A woman I watch on YouTube sometimes, she lives in the panhandle of Texas, and like a town or two over from her, it may have been her very town, I don't remember, but this was back a month or so ago, where they had culled 1 million chickens. And then of course we know there was that large fire the other day at a chicken farm in Illinois, I think it was, where I don't know how many chickens died, 1 million or so. Eggs used to be one of the cheapest ways you could eat, you know. Spend $3 or $4 for a dozen eggs, you know. You could, you know, you may not necessarily get full on one egg, but it'll keep you alive. And but if they're doing this, it's all intentional. It's all intentional. And we know the book of Revelation tells us that food prices will skyrocket. Doesn't even cover it, does it? Where an entire day's wages would buy a loaf of bread. We can't even imagine that. And we know there are parts of the world, such as in Africa, where they are already feeling that crunch. But we're done going on almost 23 minutes, so I'm going to let you all go. Have a beautiful day. If I find anything interesting, I'll be back on. Thanks for being here. Y'all have a good weekend, and Shabbat Shalom tonight, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.